Level 1. The call you don't start at Delta. Nobody does. Delta selects from people who have already proven themselves in units that would be the pinnacle of most military careers. You start as an infantryman, a ranger, or a Green Beret. You go to basic training, airborne school, ranger school. You earn your tab. You deploy, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, places that don't appear on the news because the operations there don't officially exist. You spend 4 to 6 years building a resume that most soldiers would retire on. Ranger Battalion, 75th Regiment, 3 combat deployments by 25. You've kicked doors in Fallujah, pulled security on a mountainside in the Coringle, fast-roped from a Black Hawk onto a rooftop in Mosul at 2 a.m. You are an E5 or E6, a sergeant or staff sergeant. You are very good at your job, and you know it. The men around you know it too. Then a notice appears on the bulletin board at Fort Bragg, a recruitment briefing, no unit name, no patch, just a time, a building number, and a sentence about a special operations unit organized for missions requiring rapid response with surgical application of a wide variety of unique skills. You attend. A man in civilian clothes stands at the front of the room and tells you almost nothing. The selection lasts 4 weeks. The attrition rate is historically above 90%. If selected, you will join a unit that does not officially exist, within a command structure that does not publicly acknowledge its operations. He does not tell you what the unit does, where you'll go, what you'll carry, or who you'll work for. He only tells you the date to show up if you're interested. You show up. Level 2. The Crucible selection and assessment take place in the Appalachian Mountains around Fort Bragg, North Carolina. It lasts approximately 4 weeks and is designed to break you, not only your body, though that will break too. The course strips away every external support system you've ever relied on, revealing what remains underneath. You ruck, carrying a 45-pound pack plus water and weapon across mountainous terrain over distances that increase daily, 18 miles, then 25, then 40. The final march is a 40-mile solo land navigation course through the mountains with no defined route and no time hack. They do not tell you how far it is. They do not tell you when you must finish. They do not tell you if you are doing well or poorly. The cadre observes and records, saying nothing. No encouragement. No correction. No feedback of any kind. You navigate alone with a map, a compass, and your legs. You find a point. A man at the point marks your card and gives you the next grid coordinate. No words. You turn and walk. The silence is the selection. Most military training involves a cadre that yells, motivates, pushes, punishes. Here, nobody cares. The indifference is worse than any drill sergeant's fury because it forces you to generate your own motivation from nothing. Candidates quit by the dozens. They sit at the side of the trail, raise their hand, and a truck picks them up. They are gone. No shame, no ceremony, just gone. Of the 120 candidates who started with your class, 12 will be selected. You are one of 12. You feel nothing when they tell you. Not relief, not pride. Exhaustion has burned through everything except the knowledge that whatever comes next will be harder than what you just did. Level 3. Becoming an operator 6 months. This is where they build you into something the conventional army does not have a name for. You learn close quarters battle at a level of precision that makes ranger training feel like an introduction. You fire thousands of rounds per week. Pistol transitions in under a second. Rifle to pistol in confined spaces. Shooting around hostages with margins measured in inches. You clear rooms with live rounds and live role players. Standing next to the targets, because Delta does not train with simulated consequences. If you miss, someone bleeds. You learn breaching, mechanical, ballistic, explosive, thermal. You learn to open any door on Earth in under 3 seconds. A lock, a hinge, a wall, a reinforced safe room door. You learn to move through a structure so quickly and violently that the occupants do not have time to process what is happening before it is over. You learn tradecraft, surveillance detection, cover identities, and how to move through a foreign city looking like you belong there. You learn to meet a source in a cafe without anyone noticing. Delta operators move between the worlds of soldier and spy more fluidly than any other unit in the military. OTC is where that transition begins. You learn advanced driving, evasive maneuvers, J-turns, ramming techniques, and high-speed convoy movement through urban environments. You learn field medicine, not buddy aid, but surgical-level trauma management, how to decompress a tension pneumothorax with a needle in a hallway while rounds impact 6 feet from your head. On graduation day, there is no ceremony, no family, no audience. You are handed a pager, or its modern equivalent, and told that you are now assigned to an assault squadron A, B, C, or D. You are an operator. The word means something different here than anywhere else in the military. Level 4. The newcomer, you are assigned to an assault troop within your squadron. A troop is roughly 16 operators. You are the newest. In a unit where the average operator has 8 to 12 years of special operations experience before arrival, being new means something. It means you prove yourself again. The skills learned in OTC are the foundation. Your troop will build on them during a training cycle that never stops. You train 10 months a year and deploy for the other 2, or train 6 and deploy for 6, depending on the rotation in the world's appetite for crisis. You shoot more ammunition in a month than most infantry battalions shoot in a year. You run through the kill house until close-quarters battle sequences are embedded in your nervous system the way breathing is. Enter. Clear left. Clear right. Target. Target. Hostage transition. Next room. You do it 1,000 times until you can do it in complete darkness by sound and feel alone. Your first deployment is to a location you will never name. You fly in a 161st Special Operations Aviation Regiment MH-60 Blackhawk, piloted by a night stalker who can land on a rooftop the size of a parking space at midnight with no lights. You hit a compound. The door comes off its hinges in a controlled detonation that sounds like God snapping his fingers. You move through the structure, 90 seconds from breach to clearance. The target is a high-value individual whose name you learned 6 hours ago and will forget 6 hours after the mission. You flex cuff him, put a bag over his head, walk him to the helicopter, and 4 hours later, clean your weapon on FOB while eating a protein bar. Nobody will ever know what you did tonight. That is the job. Level 5. The experienced operator, 3 years in the unit. 6 deployments: Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Africa, locations in Southeast Asia and South America that do not appear in any official record. Over 200 direct action raids. Compounds breached in Baghdad and Soldier City. Caves cleared in Tora Bora. HVTs snatched from moving vehicles in countries you cannot name. You have killed at distances measured in feet and in hundreds of meters. You can tell, by the way a man reaches for his waistband, whether he is going for a weapon or a phone. You have been right every time. Margin for error, 0. You are selected for a reconnaissance troop, Recce. Here, the most experienced operators go. Recce does not kick doors. Recce watches. You conduct close target reconnaissance on objectives that assault troops will hit days or weeks later. You operate in 2 or 4-man teams, often in civilian clothes, often in denied territory, often for weeks without resupply or communication. You sit in a hide site 300 meters from a target compound for 72 hours straight in a hole you dug and covered with local vegetation, logging every person, vehicle, and pattern of life for analysts to use in assault planning. You do not move. You do not speak above a whisper. You urinate into a bottle and defecate into a bag because any sign of human presence compromises the mission. Assault is violence compressed into seconds. Recce is discipline stretched across days. Both require the same thing: the ability to be exactly where you are supposed to be, doing exactly what you are supposed to do, when everything inside you screams to move. Level 6. The team leader, you run a team now, for operators. You are responsible for their training, readiness, performance on target, and their lives. A team leader in Delta carries authority that does not map to conventional rank. You might be an E7 leading men who are E7S and 8S because rank inside the unit is secondary to capability and role. The hierarchy is flat by design. Charlie Beckwith built it that way because he learned from the SAS that rigid ranked structures get people killed in small unit operations where the man on the ground sees things the commander does not. You plan operations. You receive a target package from the intelligence cell. a folder of photographs, signals intelligence, and human intelligence detailing who lives in the compound, where they sleep, what weapons they carry, and when the guard changes. You build a plan, rehearse it in the mock-up, brief it to the troop commander, and execute it at 0200. On target, you make decisions in fractions of seconds that will be reviewed by lawyers and generals for months. A man turns a corner holding something. You shoot or don't shoot. The object could be a weapon, a phone, or a baby. The debrief will determine which. You absorb the weight of these decisions because the alternative is hesitation. Hesitation in a hallway gets your team killed. You carry every call you've made, the right ones, the uncertain ones, and the ones that wake you at 3 a.m. in ways no debrief or legal review can resolve, because the lawyers were not in the hallway and did not see what you saw in the half-second you had to decide. After a deployment, you sit in a bar in Fayetteville with your team. Nobody talks about the missions. Nobody needs to. The shared silence is more honest than any conversation. Your wife asks how the trip was. You say, she stopped pressing years ago. Level 7, the senior operator troop sergeant, major, or troop commander, depending on whether you are enlisted or officer. You oversee 16 to 20 operators across multiple teams. You are the tactical authority on every operation your troop executes. The troop commander sets the strategic framework. You make it work on the ground. 8 years in the unit. Over 300 combat operations. Your body is an inventory of damage, blown eardrums from breaching charges, a knee rebuilt with titanium from a rooftop fall, vertebrae compressed from thousands of parachute landings and helicopter insertions, the accumulated weight of body armor worn 14 hours a day for years. The VA will rate you at 80% disability when you leave. The actual number is higher, but you will never admit it. Admitting damage feels like admitting limitation, and operators do not have limitations. They have workarounds. You mentor new operators the way someone mentored you, not through speeches, but through example. Through the way you clear a room at 42 the same way you cleared it at 28. Through the calm in your voice on the radio when the breach goes wrong, the hallway is blocked, and the backup plan becomes the primary plan in the space between two heartbeats. You've lost friends, not colleagues, not acquaintances, but brothers. Men whose children call you uncle, whose wives call you when something breaks at home because their husbands are deployed, and you are the only person they trust to understand this life. Men you trained with, deployed with, and bled alongside on 3 continents. The unit has a wall, not like the CIA's wall of stars, but more personal photographs in a hallway that most people will never walk through, in a building most people will never enter, in a compound most people will never know exists. You walk past those photographs every morning. You know every name. Level 8, Squadron Commander 05 Lieutenant Colonel. You command 60 to 80 operators plus support personnel and the assault squadron, the most lethal small unit on Earth. You are responsible for every trigger pull, every breach, every bullet. You answer to the unit commander, a full colonel, who answers to the JSOC commander, a 2- or 3-star general, who answers to the Secretary of Defense and the President. That is the chain. 4 people between your operators and the Oval Office. When the President authorizes a kill or capture mission against a high-value target, the order travels down that chain and lands on your desk. You translate it into a plan that puts your men through a door in a country that may or may not know they are there. You deploy your squadron as a task force. Your operators, plus 160 helicopters, plus Air Force combat controllers, plus Rangers as a quick reaction force, plus ISA signals intelligence, plus CIA case officers developing the target. You run operations every night during a deployment rotation. Every single night. The intelligence gathered on one raid generates the target for the next raid. The tempo is relentless. During the peak of Iraq operations between 2005 and 2008, Delta squadrons conducted 10 to 15 raids per night across multiple provinces, systematically dismantling al-Qaeda in Iraq's network one cell leader at a time in what became the most sustained high-intensity special operations campaign in American history. The fatigue is cumulative, invisible, and relentless. Your operators do not complain. Operators do not complain, but you see it in reaction times, decision-making, and how they sit in the briefing room before a mission. You manage the human cost of sustained combat in men who will never acknowledge that a cost exists. Level 9. The retiree. You leave the unit after 12, 15, or 20 years. The exit is quiet. No parade, no press release, no official record that you were ever there. Your service record says you were assigned to a Department of the Army Staff element at Fort Bragg. That is it. The missions you ran, the targets you captured or killed, the hostages you rescued, the countries you operated in, none appear anywhere a civilian could find. You take a job in private military contracting, security consulting for a Fortune 500 company, or the CIA's Special Activities Center, which recruits heavily from Delta and Dev Group for paramilitary operations requiring deniability. Some operators go to the agency and continue doing the same work in the same countries under a different letterhead. The pay triples, but the work is the same. The silence is the same. The distance from normal life is the same. You try civilian life. You sit in traffic, attend your daughter's school play, stand in line at the grocery store behind a man arguing about a coupon, and think about the last compound you hit, where a man behind a door tried to kill you. You shot him twice in the chest, once in the head, then stepped over his body and cleared the next room. And now you are standing in a grocery store and cannot reconcile the two realities, so you stop trying. You see a therapist. Maybe the unit has gotten better about mental health, about acknowledging that 300 combat operations leave marks that don't show on X-rays. But the culture of silence that made you effective also makes you incapable of describing what you've done to someone who wasn't there. You find the only people who understand are the people you served with. You call them, they call you, and you meet in places where you can sit with your back to the wall and talk about things you cannot tell anyone else. That is enough. It has to be. Level 10. The cycle right now, somewhere at Fort Liberty, they renamed Bragg, but operators still call it Bragg. A sergeant in the 75th Ranger Regiment is reading a recruitment notice. He is 26. He has done 4 combat deployments. He has a Ranger tab, a combat infantryman badge, and a Purple Heart he does not talk about. He is one of the best soldiers in his battalion, and he knows it. His chain of command knows it. That is exactly why the notice found its way to him. He is thinking about the selection, the mountains, the 40-mile ruck with no time hack, the 90% attrition rate. He is thinking about the operators he has worked alongside on joint operations, the quiet men in civilian clothes and beards who appeared on his FOB and disappeared 48 hours later, leaving nothing behind except shell casings and intelligence reports. He wants to be one of them. He does not know what it costs. He does not know about the 300 raids, the blown eardrums, the rebuilt knees, the marriages that fracture under the weight of secrets and absences, and the particular loneliness of doing extraordinary things you can never describe to anyone outside the compound. He does not know about the wall with photographs or the names you carry, or the grocery store moments where two realities collide and neither wins. He knows the selection date. He knows where to show up. He will show up. They always do. The best ones always walk toward the hardest thing they can find because something in them needs to know if they are good enough. The unit will answer that question. It always does. Most will not be. The ones who are will join the most elite fighting force in the world and spend their careers in a shadow the public will never see. The cycle begins.